Okay, so mortgages, part two. Always remember equity. Equity is a very powerful concept, and it really is the difference between the value of your home at any time minus how much you owe, right? If you were to sell at any point, how much would you actually like keep in your pocket after canceling up all your debt? Okay, so I also need you to have a few advantages and disadvantages of owning. So what I'm going to do here is for advantages for buying. For owning a home or condo, right? If you actually purchase and own it, you need to have a few advantages there. And the first one would be you build equity. Okay, that would be a huge advantage. And why does it say you build? Because the longer you own it, the more it accumulates. So you're literally building it. But really just making your payments and it grows on its own other than that. Another advantage is you can modify, renovate at will. That's what I'm going to say there. So you don't have to ask anyone for permission to do so. Another advantage would be, which is a big deal for some of us, right? You may own pets, right? You don't need to ask the landlord or the apartment block or whatever for permission to have a pet. I was in an apartment, I couldn't even have a fish in a tank. Like that's how strict their no pet policy was, right? So that, but when you own, you don't have to worry about it. I will say this. Do I need to have something else? I will say that you can stay as long as you want. Okay, you don't get evicted or anything like that. I mean, of course, if you don't make your payments, then you might get in trouble. But other than that, you don't have to worry about that. So those are, as far as advantages for owning, that's what I would, if you have two of these, you're fine. And I'm going to talk about advantages for renting. Renting, it could be house, it could be an apartment, it doesn't matter. I think one of the biggest advantages for renting is that there are lower startup costs. Okay, and what do I mean by that? No large down payment. Sure, there's a deposit. There's usually a damage deposit, but it's only like half of rent or something like that. We're not talking thousands of dollars. So no large down payment, no legal fees. And this is a big one. I may talk about this later, but there's no land transfer taxes. Okay, these are actually all pretty big amounts that would be involved if you were to buy. So an advantage of renting is that you don't have to put up with that. Okay, it is easier to relocate. It still is a bit of a hassle. You need to kind of get someone to take over your lease, but it's not as big of a deal as selling your house, right? You actually having to sell is a lot more work and it's time consuming. I would also say that it has lower maintenance costs. Landlord takes care of this. So if your hot water stops working, you just call your landlord and hopefully they get it fixed in no time. But you don't have to pay a big bill, right, for a company to come and check it out. Utilities are usually included. So I'll say lower utilities bill. So water, gas, electricity, like that's all. Usually it's actually included in the rent. It's fixed. You can use as much water as you want. You can heat the place as warm as you want. You're not going to pay more. Quite often it's included. And if it isn't, it is just minimal because you're just heating up your little place, right? You're not heating up a whole house. So I think that's all. I'm going to stick to this. I have more, but these are good enough. Every once in a while, the province just has like a one marker. Why would someone want to buy a home, right? Why would someone? And then if you have one of these, my favorite is you build equity. That is my favorite, like, because that's basically why most people own because they want to at some point when they're ready to retire or whatever, they want to sell and have all that money available to them. It's basically an investment, right? So, and I'm not focusing on disadvantages, okay? This is why you just have to use you have to use what you know here. So, what would be a disadvantage of owning? I would say, well, I would say it's harder to relocate. It's more difficult to relocate, right? So you use the advantage of renting as a disadvantage for owning. Okay, so what's a disadvantage of renting perhaps? Well, you may not be allowed to have pets in there. That's a disadvantage for renting. So I've just given you the advantages for both, and then you can use them to have the disadvantage of the other. Okay. Not very common, but just have two of each. That's what I would say. Have two of these, two advantages of owning, two advantages of renting. And if you need to explain, you need to like expand a little bit on your explanation. All right. So that's on page 72. You should have something there. So let's continue. I want to have an example where I actually calculate equity with you. So come with me. We're going to go to page 74. I feel like some of you may have done 74 already, and that's okay. But let's get this started. So I want to do a little bit more mortgages, and I also want to talk about leasing today, leasing a car, okay, leasing a vehicle. Caitlin and Doug are considering purchase of a house as an alternative to renting. This is on page 74. They find a house that is worth 250. They have a $25,000 down payment, so it's given as a dollar amount, 4.1% interest. I didn't do this with you, did I? No? No, okay. I thought I had the wrong copy. Compounded quarterly, 25 year amortization. Okay. They find a house that they can rent of a similar size that has a monthly rent of $1,250. Let's see where that goes, right? For now, we're just going to focus on the mortgage. It says determine the monthly mortgage payment if they choose to purchase the house. So let's go ahead and do this. We're going to do A right here, NI, PV, PMT, and so forth. Okay. Compounded quarterly. We're asked to find the monthly payment, so this would be 12. We want our future value to be 0. The payments, we're going to figure that out. So that's a dot right there. Present value, I'd like you to do this here. I go 250,000 minus 25,000. And that is $225,000. Positive because it's coming, right? The bank is loaning you that to you, right? And therefore we're expecting the payments to be negative because that's going to go to the bank. This is 4.1, and this is going to be 25 years times whatever PY is. That's 12. Okay, so we have 300 there. We're looking at 300 months basically for this example. So grab your calculator, enter all of this, and let's calculate. So 25 times 12, 4.1, 25, 12, and 4. Alpha, enter. And that is 1,198 and 35 cents. It's negative, but that makes sense, okay? So that's our monthly payment. We've got that. This payment, folks, includes some of it goes towards paying off your loan and some of it is interest every single month. You got to understand that. Not all of it goes towards paying it off every single month. Okay. So we've got that. Okay. So let's answer B here. Will I be able? I think I can do that here. B, give one reason they might choose to buy the house as opposed to renting. Okay. And I will just say, if they purchase, if they buy, they will accumulate equity which acts as an investment. Okay. That's all you have to say there. You could also say, you know, they may have pets, and if you buy a house, you don't have to worry about. You can live where you want and have the pets with you right there. You don't have to look for an apartment in the city that allows pets, right? So, or they might say they really want to customize their place. They just want to buy it, and they can tear down walls. They can add stuff, right? However they like it. Okay, that's that. C. Give one reason they might choose to rent instead of buying the home. Okay, so we'll go here. See, as you can tell, the monthly payment is actually less for the mortgage as opposed to renting. However, we all know that overall there's going to be additional costs here with this one. So I will say if they rent, they do not have to worry about a large down payment, right? Just remember, they put down 25,000 when they wanted to purchase that house. They do not need to worry about that in this case. You can also say, or they would not have to worry about maintenance costs. Or they would not have to pay costly lawyer fees or whatever when making a transaction. Just make it appealing, right? Like, why would someone want to rent? And so I feel like that renting information should have said utilities included, and then it would have been even more appealing. Yes. Sure. Okay, C is done. Now D, this is where I want to make sure you understand part D, okay? If the house appreciates at 1.75% per year, determine their equity in the house after 9 years. Okay, so remember, equity is value of house minus balance owing. And that's what equity really is. So some students like to chunk this up. I will do it like all in one line. Okay, so I will do it like this. E, I call E equity. What's the value of the house? It would be initial times 1 plus the rate over 100 to the power of years minus, and this formula I already gave you that yesterday, balance owing, and I will go years times PY. I'm starting to do this instead of N. Then you're for sure going to get this right. So here we go. What's the initial value of the home? Let's see, because this is important. Is it 225 or is it 250? It's 250, right? You just made a down payment, but the value of the home is still 250. So we're going to put 250,000 here. And then we go 1 plus the rate of increase is 1.75%. If you divide that by 100, you get 0.0175. All of that to the power of, we're talking 9 years in this case. So we're going to go 9 years into the future and estimate our value of the home minus the balance owing at 9 years times whatever PY is. PY is 12, correct? So we're going to do that. E is equal to, I'm going to clean it up a little bit more. 1 plus this is just 1.0175 to the power of 9. You just add these up, right? You get this. Minus balance. 108, right? Balance 108. So I'm going to show you on the calculator now. This is your exponential function, right? Which after 9 years, you'll figure out what the value is of the home. So just quit this screen. Don't change anything on TVM Solver because we're going to use it for balance. I'm going to go 250,000 times. Now you can go brackets. There's nothing wrong with that. To the power of 9. And you write that number down. Okay. So 292, 246, 80. So that is the value, the expected value in 9 years of your house. That's actually fairly accurate. The houses go up by about 2% on average every year, and it's compounded. So it's almost like, let's put money into the account, 250,000, and it grows at 1.75% interest rate over 9 years, right? This is how much you have technically. This is how much it's worth. Minus, let's figure out how much we owe at that time. So you have to be careful. This will only work if you followed me here and you actually solve your TVM solver. It will not work otherwise. So I'm going to quit this. I'm going to go apps, finance, balance is right at the bottom here. And you just have to type in 108 for this to work out for you. There it is. 168,695.97. Here it is, folks. The power of equity. 292,246.8 minus 168,695.97. 123,550.83. So in 9 years, if you were to sell at that point, this is just an estimation. We don't know for sure what's going to happen to the market. But you can expect to have 123,000 in equity. This is the expected equity in 9 years time. So it's all included in this big formula. You just have to be very careful how you enter everything. Okay. All right. So this is what I wanted to highlight today. So I'm just going to make sure, right, we're using this formula once again to figure out our equity. I would highlight this because it should stand out if you work on these. And if you do pages 75 and on, those are all mortgage questions. You're gonna see it. See, it says here, calculate the equity in 10 years. And what's the equity, right, in 5 years? So there's different time frames, different percentages that it's increasing by. So you can be prepared to calculate that. Maybe I'll give you some time right now. So either 75 or 76, wherever you ended up, if you did your homework, and if you did it all, you just sit back and relax. You deserve a break. Okay. But maybe let's go to page 75 and try that one right now. So calculate all of that. I kind of break it down, just so you know, I'm breaking it down so you don't need to do it all in one chunk. Like I ask you how much is owing in 10 years. I also ask you what the house will be worth in 10 years. And then I ask you for the equity. So it kind of breaks it down for you in chunks. So give it a try, okay? I'm going to come and check on you if you need help.